just getting them to understand that the Xavier way it's great. It's awesome, but the whole world has changed. The whole sports world has changed. I really, really believe in what I'm doing and what I need within reason to be successful in this new era of it. That's why I say, like, I'm going to own my stamp on this thing. This is the Pitino Show, hosted by Richard Pitino and Paul Fritschner, presented by Deer Park Roofing.
Welcome into another episode of the Pitino Show presented by Deer Park Roofing. I'm Paul Fritschner alongside the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Richard Pitino. And make sure if you haven't already, you subscribe to the show wherever you're watching or listening to this, any major podcast platform and YouTube. Coach, it's been a little while since you and I have had a chance to just sit down one-on-one here and catch up. We're recording this before the Villanova game, so this will come out before the Big East Tournament. Wanted to kind of give everybody an opportunity to catch up on the season. Obviously, there have been a lot of ups and downs, and Trey Carroll getting hurt last week in the Seton Hall game. And you had mentioned on the radio show last week about how he'd been so reliable, hadn't missed a practice, hadn't missed a game, hadn't missed a practice, and then he goes down against Seton Hall, and obviously at that point was the Big East's leading scorer. We'll see it by the time this episode comes out, whether he's held on to that or not. But I guess we'll start there going into the Big East Tournament, having a roster that may or may not include Trey Carroll at that point. And how much has he meant to this group down the stretch? One, from a leadership perspective, but two, his production output.
Well, not to say he's not a good leader. He's plenty good enough, but just production, efficiency, 18 points per game, kind of a big deal. If you saw at the end of the Seton Hall game, we were right there, and we couldn't get a basket when we needed to. We just couldn't make a play, and Trey has been so very reliable in that. So, I'm hoping it's not huge, but, I mean, the season's coming to an end, too, you know what I mean? So you're up against the clock a little bit. So, I think he's a game-time decision on Saturday versus Villanova, and then if not, see if we can get him ready to go for Wednesday in the Big East. But, he's potentially a first-team all-conference player, 18 points per game. So it is what it is, part of sports, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that game against Seton Hall was senior night, and you quote tweeted something this morning as we're recording this that was talking about the amount of seniors in Power Conference basketball that have been at their school for all 4 years, and it's so rare. I think it was 22
players at the Power 4 or 5 level, whatever it was, that have stayed at a school for 4 years.
Yeah, and so from a senior night perspective, where I got asked a question a million times this week of, well, Roddy has another year, but he's walking, he's getting a sword, but so how do you decide, or is it up to them? Can they decide? He is a grad student.
We just basically, it's become so crazy, right? And but we want to honor the ones that graduate or are out of eligibility, and it is what it is. I don't like it at all. I think I don't really have a problem with NIL besides the things I have a problem with NIL are there's no transparency. I think it would really help for fan bases, administrations, presidents, commissioners, if they really knew what everybody was paying, because a lot of people lie down because they want to take the pressure off themselves. The coaches, we only spent $11 million when they spent 13, or I always say it's like when you went to Vegas and you lost $1,000 and your wife asks you how much you lost, you say, $500. You don't lie. That's the same thing with NIL. So I think transparency would really, really help everybody compete better. But then the transfer thing is really where we've lost our way. We want players to have the freedom to move. We absolutely do. But to just let them, it's not good for them. We all know when we first went to college, we may have had our doubts. I know first semester Providence College, I'm thinking, I don't know about this. Greatest decision I ever made. Stick it out, and so we're not helping them there. But it is what it is. I think the NCAA is, they don't want to be sued. It's not that they don't want to be sued, but they're not winning a lot of these things, so it's very, very hard. But that's the current landscape.
Yeah, and then trying to deal with that going into the offseason. We'll do another episode after the season's over, kind of getting a recap of the season and previewing the portal, all those kinds of things. But as we sit here now. Obviously, at least a couple of games left, and I'm sure there are decisions you're going to have to make after the season of players that will be returning, players that won't be returning. Are there things here in the last couple of games that you're looking for from players? Or
no, I mean, you try not to be a prisoner of the moment. You know what I mean? I think you have to understand this. I think Mick Cronin said it. It's a really good point I saw on Twitter one day, but I'm the only one in the whole organization with a multi-year contract. That is what it is. So I think you have to make decisions every single year what's best for Xavier. I don't like that it's this way by any means, but, I think retention's very, very important. Now, I think, obviously, when you don't inherit anybody who played last year, a little bit different. So, we're really trying to get the train on the tracks. But people also have to understand, it's not up to me with all these players. I don't have an unlimited bankroll where I can some are going to want more money, and that's their right. That doesn't mean they're bad people by any means. But so can you make it work within our budget? Can you make it work the best for Xavier? And if not, you have to move on. So it's complicated. It's complex. Is what it is.
So how do you handle that when a player says, "Oh, I might be able to go to," so I'm hearing I might get this number from another school, right? I'm sure that happens.
Have at it. I think at the end of the day, you're not really negotiating because we don't have any leverage. You know what I mean? I think the greatest strength any person in business can have is leverage. Like last year, for example, so I've been coaching for 14th year being head coach. Last year was the most leverage I ever had. New Mexico wanted me to stay, and we won, so that helps that. I also had opportunities elsewhere. I didn't want to leave New Mexico, but when I got other job opportunities, I'd go to New Mexico and say, hey, I turned down a job that was offering more money to stay at New Mexico because it wasn't solely about money for me. It was about where can I win? The players, they're always going to get offered more money. They just are because somebody may value them a little bit higher. Like I'm trying to put together a championship team. So there's not really a lot of negotiating. I think what we have to do is decide what's kind of our walk-away number. Sounds kind of cruel or whatever, but they all have agents. The agents are making 15, 20%, which is insane. So it's the agent's job to get them the best deal. And all good. You know what I mean? It's it's not personal by any means. So, you try to put together a fair offer. The problem is we don't know what's fair. We don't, I don't think anybody in a million years would have thought teams would be spending $15 million. I bet you last year's Final Four, probably the average NIL budget was probably $4 million. Now it's almost tripled that. So who knows where the market goes in this spring? I think conventional wisdom is the pay never goes down. It always goes up. So, you try to be open and honest with guys, but if they get opportunities for more money, I think for our thing is that walk-away number of can't go any higher, man.
Yeah.
It's not personal, and go from there.
Yeah. Do you hope that maybe some player who is already on the roster that you might be able to say, hey, you've been here, there's a retention factor too. Can you take as everybody always likes to say, a hometown discount?
Well, I think you can get guys to take a home. So here's the thing about NIL, okay? I think what helps retention is having a lot of money. As crazy as that sounds, because I think they all do want to stay, but they're all getting offered these up. So they're basically coming to me and saying, okay, I want to stay, but this school, they're already offering. See, the schools are. They may not be talking to the kid, but I'm getting agents reaching out to me with their roster of clients. Hey, let me know what you think. And none of these guys are in the portal. Well, you don't think people are doing that to our players? Maybe going through their workout guy, their high school coach, whatever. I mean, it just is what it is. So, you want to create a great experience where money's not the only factor, but man, it just is right now. And so you try to, maybe you could save 100,000, 200,000 off. And we've been able to do that with some guys before, but if you're far off, you're not going to retain them.
Deer Park Roofing has been providing elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. So whether your needs are residential or commercial, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is, protect what's important. And what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com today. deerparkroofing.com.
A fifth third better means we give 166.7%.
Who's a good boy, Parson?
I am good boy.
That's right. And why?
Because I bank a fifth third better.
Wait, what?
5/3 equals 166.7%, so they put 166.7% into everything they do.
Okay, what is happening?
I'll tell you what's happening. Free checking, no hidden fees, and identity theft protection. Now, let's get rid of Cat, please.
What?
This is banking a fifth third better.
Yeah, I was reading an article last night. I think it was Evan Miyakawa put this out. And it was a study that he had done on the importance of the roster and your roster construction going into a season, and how much you can develop within a season and how much of it is just your roster and how good it was before the season started. And I think some quote from a coach that had responded to the article said it's 80% about the roster, and then once opening day happens, it's 20% about what happens after that, because your team and your roster is built in the offseason. Now, it sounds obvious, right? But I think there is an element of, well, maybe you can have a less talented roster that you coach up through the season. But a lot of this depends on just, can you crush it in the portal and
I don't coach up. I don't. What does that mean? I mean, you see it all the time in the NBA. The Pacers were in the finals last year. Rick Carlisle's the coach. The Pacers are not good this year. What happened? Tyrese Halliburton got hurt. So, I'm not trying to devalue coaching, but I won 27, 28 games last year in a multi-bid league. I was 17-3. We had the best players. You know what I mean? So, now, you could screw it up for sure, but, ever striving to not have the best players is a really, really bad business model. It's a really, really bad plan of attack. Now, chemistry, of course, discipline, coaching, structure, absolutely. But yeah, no, my whole goal, I want to win the Big East. That is my goal. Okay. Well, in order to do that, you got to have a great budget. You got to have a great infrastructure. You got to have all those things. So that's been just as important as any of the stuff that you're seeing on the court this year for me. So, again, retention is huge. You have to have the money to do it, and it's vital, because this market is just wacky right now.
Yeah, I know there's still a couple of games left at least, but have there been things that have stood out to you about the Big East this season that you're going to take going into next season? Just a couple of things, from a roster perspective that maybe you want to do differently than you did this year, or,
Well, this is hard for fans to understand. I wouldn't look at this year and truly judge.
Yeah.
I just, and I'm going to be judged by my record and totally cool with it. But I think there's a lot of reasons, why we're at where we're at right now. When you walk into a job and you have one returning player who didn't play last year, and then you walk into a situation, and I know the school is going to step up in a bigger way financially, which, there's been a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and I greatly appreciate that. But that was the most insane market financially you've ever seen as it pertains to transfers. So when you can't retain anybody, do you think we'd be better if we had Dalen Swain and Ryan Conwell who were in the program? You know what I mean? So it's like when you're not able to do that, I think it's kind of understandable about where we're at right now. So to answer your question of like, what have you learned about the Big East? Well, the top 3 teams in the league, they're highly invested in winning. They are. They're big, they're strong, they're talented. Every roster's a little bit different. I think if you told me UConn, I think, has done the best job of putting together the best roster. They've got an amazing high school player, really 2 amazing high school players in Ribel and Mullins. They retained Solo Ball. They retained Caravan. They retained Terrace Reed. They took a great transfer in Silas Demery. So they had the blend. That's what I want. Like I don't want all transfers. We signed kids in the high school class I'm very excited about. And then I'd like to retain some of these guys. And then I'd like to. So I look at UConn as the model. And UConn, by the way, doesn't have the highest NIL in the country. Now, they've got a lot. But, so whenever I talk about NIL, like I don't want the most. I just want something competitive to, when we play Villanova twice and we play St. John's twice and we play UConn twice, like, no, we expect to win. And I think UConn's done a great job of that. I think St. John's obviously retained Zuby, phenomenal player. Ruben Prey was retained. Then they went out and got some transfers and did all those things. And then Villanova retained, I think it was 1 or 2 guys from last year and did a really good job in the portal. Had a Caden Lewis who they recruited at Maryland. So I think the blend is really the key. I do not think you can take, like we did, 11, 12 transfers and think you're going to be, you look at probably the most consistent 2 guys on the roster, probably Phillip and Jovan, Trey as well, but they played for me last year.
Yeah. Any development on Phillip? Maybe. I know that's been a huge topic of discussion.
Still waiting.
Waiting.
Nothing new.
Something that you talked about the other night on your radio show was establishing your way of doing things here at Xavier and trying to make sure that everybody inside this building is pulling in the same direction and making sure that you understand here's how we're going to do things and this is what I believe we need to do to be successful. Thought it was a really interesting point. And obviously, again, something that sounds obvious, but when you think about it, there are a lot of dynamics and people that have been here through several different coaches over the years. And now you come in here and you say, well, this might be different, but here's how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we run like this eccentric program by any means that's like really hard to adapt to our changes. I also don't think anybody's fighting me internally to change. Like everybody's been amazingly welcoming and, but I think Xavier's unique because for the last 25 years, there's been the same model. And it's worked, and that's great. Like, I'm not fighting it. Like, Mario is a great resource for me because he's been here for 75 years. I know he's not that old, but, I want to know what Sean Miller, Chris Mack, Thad Mon, like, those guys have been very, very successful. But as it pertains to just, like, my whole thing is this, like, I'm going to own it. Like, I know I get blamed when we lose. I do, and that's totally fine. But, I got to get everybody to just kind of see, like, hey, it may be a little bit different, but that's okay. Like, they're all really good people. They've all been here for a really long time, like, and they're all great. And I think they're willing to do that, but just getting them to understand that the Xavier way it's great. It's awesome, but the whole world has changed. The whole sports world has changed. And I really, really believe in what I'm doing and what I need within reason to be successful in this new era of it. So, yeah, it's not like my way or the highway. Like, I'm totally open to tell me what you guys did on these visits. Tell me, like, great. I love the feedback, but I just know if I don't win, I'm going to get fired. And that's why I say, like, I'm going to own my stamp on this thing.
It being proactive, not reactive.
I mean, it's on me. Like, it's on me. I'm totally cool with that. Like, I have seen the beauty of my career is I have won and I have lost. And the greatest thing I learned at Minnesota, it's funny, people always ask you, like, to apologize for your sins at Minnesota. The biggest regret I had was in 8 years is not that we didn't win enough. We went to 2 NCAA tournaments. We won a game. We won the NIT. We had some injuries, whatever. But I didn't do a good enough job of pushing to compete resource-wise with Michigan State. And, okay, like you want me to go to a Final Four? Okay, this is what Illinois has, and this is what Indiana has. And because I think that stuff really, really matters. I really do. So it's, getting everybody, okay, like let's all be on the same page of what the expectations are. Okay, if you want to be in the tournament every single year, that means you're probably going to be top 30 in the country. All right, this is what top 30 in the country looks like. Not for my personal game, but for running a program and doing all those things. So everybody's been extremely receptive. I don't think I'm like rocking their world by any means with some of the changes. It's just what I'm comfortable doing to put us in a position of success.
Deer Park Roofing has been providing elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. So whether your needs are residential or commercial, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is protect what's important, and what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com today. deerparkroofing.com.
A fifth third better means we give 166.7%.
Who's a good boy, Parson?
I am good boy.
That's right. And why?
Because I bank a fifth third better.
Wait, what?
5/3 equals 166.7%, so they put 166.7% into everything they do.
Okay, what is happening?
I'll tell you what's happening. Free checking, no hidden fees, and identity theft protection. Now, let's get rid of cat, please.
What?
This is banking a fifth third better.
The journey to move medicine forward takes an unwavering commitment to solving complex patient care. Innovative thinkers driven to change lives. A therapeutically focused contract research organization. A diverse team committed to comprehensive patient care. All leading to successful drug approval. Join the CTI team on our journey to move medicine forward.
All right, Big East Tournament coming up here in a couple of days as you all are watching or listening to this. Xavier will be playing on Wednesday. We don't know when yet as we record this, but Xavier will be playing on Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening. Big East Tournament, for my money, is the greatest conference tournament that there is in the country. You're playing it at Madison Square Garden, which obviously is a fantastic building, but also the pageantry of it, the programs that are there. It's a very special week in college basketball. For you to now coach in your first Big East Tournament, how much are you looking forward to being part of that?
As long as we don't play at 9:30, which I think has been ruled out, I'm looking forward to it.
Not playing that game.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, I want to be walking in there as a top 3 seed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Top 4 seed. That's going to take time, and I really believe we'll get there. But the Big East has been interesting this year. There's a lot of the bottom and middle. Anybody can beat anybody. I think the top obviously was St. John's and UConn. They're at a high level, but yeah, I think this profession is so NCAA tournament obsessed. The Big East Tournament is legitimately one of the best experiences I've ever had. I wasn't the head coach, but I was assistant coach. We won it at Louisville, and I remember the high of winning that. And then we went to the NCAA tournament, and the first 2 rounds felt like a letdown. So if you can ever get to Friday night in Madison Square Garden, that is an amazing experience for our fans, our administration, our alumni, and our players especially.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Jay Wright who said winning the Big East Tournament is like making a Sweet 16.
It really is. It really is. And, I think the Big East is down, as people say. And I really believe everybody sees it in our league, and they're like, okay, this is what it's going to take. I mean, we only have 11 teams, so it's a little bit unfair to get compared to the Big 10 and the Big 12 and the SEC and ACC. They have so many more teams. I don't know the exact number, but, I think the Big East should always be getting at least 5, maybe 6 bids. There's going to be coaching turnover, injuries and stuff, but you're never going to get like 90% of your league into that. But I think it's an amazing event. Everybody getting to go to New York. The weather's starting to turn better. Like, it's a lot of fun.
I know your dad had talked about a few weeks ago raising the NIL floor of the Big East teams.
That's my idea. He's just repeating what I'm saying.
No doubt.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, and I understand it's a moving target.
Yeah.
And so to just blame the ADs and the presidents, that's not fair to them. You have to, and that's kind of where I wish you could disclose how much you're spending so everybody knows. It's like the MLB, fans get mad at the Reds ownership because they see what the Dodgers are spending, they see what the Reds are spending. And I understand why they can't spend that. You're in a small market or whatever, but I think the floor needs to be $10 million. I really do. For college basketball rosters in the Big East. The coaches are good enough. The players are really good. And if you spend more money, you're going to get even better players. The fan bases, the venues. I'm watching Providence College Marquette last night. Marquette was last. Providence is, very talented, but they've been, close in a lot of games. And the place was packed. You look at our games, and that gives me hope here. Our last game almost had 10,000 fans. That's amazing. We just need to really, really set to meet. We have these meetings in the Big East in Florida and talking scheduling. I'm I was new to the league. I'm I have the answer if you guys want it. I know it's hard. I really do, but I just know that these programs are so very important to all these fan bases. And, you have to, right now, it used to be a practice facility. It used to be nutritionists. It used to be private. Now it's players, and that's what gets them. So I do think the league sees that.
From the sound of it, Xavier's going to be significantly more invested in NIL for this upcoming offseason and going into next year. Have you gotten the sense from around the league that other coaches are, not to put other schools on the spot, but talking with other coaches, have you gotten some optimism that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think St. John's has got a billionaire backing them. We don't. If there's somebody in Cincinnati that's a billionaire that wants,
I take out Mega Millions tickets all the time, Coach.
I appreciate it. So they've got this perfect storm of, my dad's obviously a great coach, but they're seeing a return on their investment. They just are. So I think UConn they're trying to go for it. I can only speak for us. There's going to be a significant increase, which is really, really helpful. And again, I just think it's really just hard to forecast it. I think the money's always going to go up. It just is. Unless something changes, which I don't see how it can change. So the more the better. That doesn't mean I don't own the coaching piece. I'm just not going to blame NIL all the time. But you have to have a competitive NIL, and I think we'll be significantly better. And I'm very appreciative of the work that a lot of people have put in behind the scenes.
Well, Coach, best of luck this Saturday. I know, again, this will come out before or after that, but best of luck in the Big East Tournament as well next week. And we'll catch up again at some point here in the off season, maybe in a few weeks before we let you get really settled into the portal and everything like that, recap the season and all that. But appreciate you taking some time.
Thank you.
Yep. This has been another episode of The Pitino Show presented by Deer Park Roofing, and we'll talk to you next time right here. Subscribe, YouTube, audio platforms, all of that good stuff. And we'll talk to you next time on The Pitino Show.